This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 once again on the map Carvel, and you know what? No, we're not going to go to the top right. We're going to go to the bottom left. Been doing a lot of Carvel games recently as the Cyan allies in the bottom left-hand corner. This is Verner. Werner Herzog, perhaps, is joining us in this game. Elon Musk has joined us in some Kane's Wrath games, and this time it's Werner Herzog. Anyways, as their ally in the kind of center middle, this is the Blue Soviets. Decerto, I don't know. This is one of those names that I expect someone in the comments to tell me how to pronounce. I'm going to call him Decerto. Ooh, we have got some crates in this game as the Purple Allies. This is Justin5959, who the last time I cast a Carvel game, he was phenomenal and entertaining. As the Green Empire, this is Yuno, another player who we have seen quite a bit of over the last year or year and a half. The island is split, and as the Orange Soviets, this is DD11 Pro 228 MMR. So that's going to be MMR. And our sixth player as the Red Soviets with the Crane build. This is Shewetta. All right, we got a bunch of names in this game that I am going to have some difficulty pronouncing. It looks like Justin is getting jumped pretty early. He's trying to maintain the center of the map, but it's just not seeming to work out for him. He is getting a couple of barks off here, which is good, but his Peacekeepers don't have much success at stopping this. An additional barracks does arrive, and now a multi-gunner turret is up and running, but it's into the low-power mode immediately, and Justin59 may not be the hero that we saw him be in a previous game, which was phenomenally entertaining. Yuno, on the other hand, playing as the Empire faction, is the worst faction to try and help you do something against this kind of early game aggression from a double Soviet, double Crane opening team on the middle of the map. But Justin retreats out to the water. MMR heads to the top left-hand corner, and we are already getting things underway in a pretty aggressive fashion. Yuno goes right for... Okay, so great prediction here by Yuno. A great move in general. This is the kind of friendship that you want when you're playing in a Carvel 2v2v2. Although, why did... Oh, okay, the sentry gun is there, but this one could still be attacking. At any rate, Yuno realized that the Soviet players in the middle of the map were putting on a lot of pressure, and therefore probably wouldn't have adequate defense from some Tengu attacks, and actually this Harvester never got back to work, so good enough. I mean, you don't have to kill the Harvester if the Harvester never gets back to work. It is functionally the same. Second refinery finally coming on up here for Justin, but really it's his first refinery because his actual first refinery already got cleaned up. Triple Tengu going for the harass, going to be able to shut down another Harvester, lock it down from doing any further damage. And it looks like MMR has kind of stabilized here, but also Shewetta have both kind of stabilized here, as it's actually the War Factory from MMR in Shwetta's base. But Shewetta will eventually be able to get back on track with that economy, and this costly attack, the early game aggression, all of those bears and flak troopers, barracks, I guess there weren't really a lot of conscripts, and the static D cost them their opening. So they themselves did not get particularly well established, but I think everyone has had enough time to restabilize. Those of them who got off to a little bit of a shaky start have been able to reorient themselves a little bit and are going to be shaping up nicely for the mid-game. So all things considered, our blue team in the south, Verner and Decerto, are going to probably have the best shot at being a cohesive team into the late game, but we should not count out these other players just yet. Verner and Decerto, perhaps they are actually the worst players, so even though they got sort of an early game advantage from not having to spend a bunch on attacking or defending, they may end up getting kicked to the curb. Who knows? Anything can happen. The best players die the most quickly. The worst players win the game. Sometimes that's what happens. And as long as we all have fun, as long as it's very entertaining, then who even cares? By the way, if you're watching this in October of 2021, not a lot of videos coming out in October and November. Got a bunch of stuff coming up at work, and I'll mostly be sort of traveling in and out and not able to produce or record a lot of videos. Lovely expansion up here from Verner, but just no opportunity to get out the additional refineries. And this is kind of what I was referring to, because Verner should be sitting pretty with all of the time and cash that he's been able to accumulate to get himself into a great position, but already he's going to be losing a little bit of infrastructure there, taking some damage, and also his expansion is extremely slow. He's just cranking away on those 2 refineries, but neither one of them is actually harvesting anything. So saying that he has 2 refineries is perhaps a little bit deceptive. One bridge gets cleaned up. The other bridge does remain for now. Of course, it is between allies. And actually, it's kind of funny. Justin managed to sneak out an expansion and maintain some kind of presence on the high ground there. So Justin is going to be sitting pretty with those 3 refineries. Perhaps even a 4th refinery will be available to him relatively soon. He's got the Dolphin, he's got the Naval Yard. Tier 2 is up and running for Justin, taking that pressure early on, but he is going to be just rolling it into perhaps a strong mid-game. Satellites coming down on that dojo, so Yuno is going to be getting shut down there, but not that big of a deal. Additional multi-gunner turret just to try and keep these hammer tanks away, and the hammer tanks have to, I think, reverse move away a little bit further to get out of range of that multi-gunner turret. Cryo shot fires off, misses both of the hammer tanks, and a new barracks has been established by Yuno. Toxins clear out that building in the middle of the map. Yuno looking to take an additional expansion. MMR and Shewetta still have not cleared out the middle of the map, but it's still on their agenda. They would like to do that at some point. Meanwhile, in the north, Shewetta has been expanding to 2 different locations, and MMR has managed to secure this little expansion with the oil derrick as well. Tengus versus Sickles. The hammer tanks ordinarily would help out a little bit more, but this is just so many Sickles, and the EMP is going to allow these other couple of Sickles to get eliminated. Oh, actually, lovely infect there with that terror drone. The Mecha Tengu is going to go down eventually, and these bullfrogs just standing by doing nothing will eventually go down perhaps to those to those Tengus. But no, the hammer tank, somewhat pushes them away. Really, the Tengus merely retreated, as perhaps bigger guns are coming in, the Wave Force Artillery and that aircraft carrier both in the south there. But multi-gunner turret is going to try and keep this push at bay. MMR going to be calling in some satellites on that prospector. A hammer tank as well going to be moving into the location to try and finish off this base. Couple of javelin soldiers going to be the response by Justin. And Justin getting completely locked in there by that multi-gunner turret getting completely locked in, rather, as this hammer tank is going to have to deal with 2 or maybe even 3 javelin soldiers, as eventually that hammer tank will go down or be forced to crush the javelin soldiers one way or the other. Goodbye, hammer tank. This MCV is going to be getting laser locked if it's not careful. More and more wall segments are actively stopping that, but the sickle will finally show up to kill off Justin's javelin soldier, but not before that sentry gun gets completely shut down. Into the civilian structure goes that javelin soldier. Justin, on the other hand, with that tier 3, finally putting the herd out on his Soviet opponents. And Vindicator comes in for a lovely Wave Force Artillery attack, cleans up one of the Wave Force Artillery. The other one, I assume, is pushing away these hammer tanks or whatever, is here in the south. Decerto is going to be getting, well, perhaps completely annihilated, as that twin blade was maybe his best shot at stopping this attack. We'll see if there's any unification between the naval forces of Justin and the attacking ground forces of Yuno. There's going to be the cryo shot on top of the tank busters, on top of the Wave Force Artillery as well, but the twin blades actually are the ones who get the kill, and it's up to the Tengus to try and go for the kill. A couple of tank busters could help even things up, but no, they all get crushed and destroyed. The twin blades helping out those hammer tanks, but eventually the twin blades all go down as the aircraft carrier gets a little bit too close for comfort to these hammer tanks. EMP perhaps will lock them down, but no, the EMP does not come. The hammer tanks are going to try and break down this base. Justin fires off his own cryo shot, but he misses there as the hammers evade it, and the multi-gunner turret is going to secure this expansion for only a moment as they drive around the walls and find a perhaps better angle to attack. Don't actually get the kill on that ore collector. Finally, they do eliminate it as the first psionic decimator is out on the field. Yuno placing that one down, often a tool that we all need in our arsenal to be able to break the opponent in something like a 2v2v2. Decerto losing his war factory, it looks like there, as the never-ending bombing runs finally break through the anti-air. The MCV still remains, and Justin continues to chip away at this base, getting himself a fully heroic aircraft carrier. He's going to have that extra bit of range, that extra bit of firepower against his opponents. A couple of twin blades coming in. Maybe that was just for vision. Satellites get called down, and it cleans out the assault destroyer, but not the aircraft carrier. And finally, Justin manages to get out a second aircraft carrier, so he is going to have a much shorter time to clear out the remainder of this base, although a lot of this stuff might actually be out of range of those aircraft carriers. Although not this refinery. That one is in range of the heroic aircraft carrier at the very least. It's right on the edge there. Vindicators coming in from the north looking for a juicy target. They're just going to go for the Harvester. Not the juiciest of targets. Decerto, I'm not sure what his plan is here with this single hammer tank, but hey, maybe he'll be able to make something happen with that. Multi-gunner turrets are eventually going to be getting chipped away at, but this is actually maybe just buying time for Decerto and Verner as they are continuing to try and make something out of this game. Maybe not so much Decerto, but at least Verner, who's got this expansion going on up here, and the longer that Decerto can act as a human meat shield, the better it is for Verner. Yuno swinging around through the north side of the map, looking for an opening, looking for an opportunity against Shewetta or MMR. Either one of them could be a potential target for all of these Tengus. Maybe even just this MCV. Jumping on the MCV, as long as you don't lose them all to the crush, you could do some big damage to the MCV, maybe even take it down, as that's 2, 3, 4 Tengus getting crushed, maybe even 5, 6 might go down, but eventually this MCV does get cleaned up, and goodbye, as that MCV gets wiped off of the face of the earth. And of course there is Kirov airships, MiGs, and twin blades as well, all ready to go. These Tengus going to be trying to shut down that expansion. Yuno manages to hold on to that location and continue to push back Decerto with the help of Justin. Justin really pulling some weight on the attack of Decerto, and every single player still in this game, although not all at the same status. These Tengus eventually going to turn around and try and deal with the MiGs straight up when they're not quite as close to the bullfrogs. MMR drops down the reactor just so he can maintain that build radius, keep himself in that little section of the map. He's got a crane somewhere for sure, maybe even has a second MCV somewhere. No, it doesn't look like there's an additional MCV, just the crane hidden probably still in the top right corner of the map with a super reactor and a war factory. Lots of stuff going on. That might have been that hammer tank from a couple of minutes ago. They got airlifted to the middle of the map. Decerto, as MCV, has managed to escape, although not much else from Decerto has managed to escape. Let's see. Got a refinery. Got a crane. Terrible location for that refinery. But still technically in the game, you know. Maybe he can long-distance harvest from one of these refineries, get one load of ore every couple of minutes. And that is really frustrating. Okay, he does barely have enough. He had to sell something off. Wow, he was so strapped for cash. I guess he can eventually either keep these harvesters around in long-distance mining, or he can send some of them into that grinder, get a little bit of cash back for them. Might be one of those situations where he just uses his money to get out two or three war factories, and then once he gets the mass production upgrade, he can then actually make a profit with those war factories. One airfield goes down. The MCV does escape, the rebuilt MCV for MMR, but not wanting to engage against the Tesla coil. All of the MiGs get eliminated, but the Kirov goes down before the last of the MiGs, and the Bullfrog's actually getting a lot of damage off here on these Tengus. This late in the game, the Tengu's relatively expendable, considering how much stuff Yuno can produce with 3 or 4 refineries and the production. By the way, Nanoswarm Hive is out on the field as well as a vacuum imploder. Lovely little group of reactors there. The vacuum imploder with 2 minutes and a quarter. It could be knocked out by the psionic decimator. We'll see if it actually gets to fire off. But for the current moment, the aircraft carrier is trying to do what they can to level the vacuum imploder. Yuno and Justin definitely feeling like the strongest candidates in this game, although there goes at least one of the aircraft carriers. The other one's still bombing away, and it might finally get the vacuum imploder. Cleans it up very nicely. 50 seconds just about left on the psionic decimator as everything gets jumped on. Yuno going to be able to clean up a couple of these high-tech, although that is, I think, 2 bunkers with a ton of flak troopers inside of them. That's something difficult to bust. With that many Tengus, you would probably be able to do it, but it would be a costly attack to make. Terror drone inside of the assault destroyer and the aircraft carrier going to be throwing a real wrench into the plans of Justin. These crates not always getting picked up by the players. Some of them are unutilized. V4 rocket's going to be potentially just cleaning up this ore refinery, shutting it down completely. Yep, forces the sell-off there as Yuno does the terrible deed of having to sell off a refinery. No one likes that. Chronosphere down to 2 minutes and 50 seconds, it looks like, as the psionic decimator is ready to blast off. Where will it actually be utilized? Who even knows? Oh, just outside of the range of that naval yard. Not even ready yet. Beacon's getting placed by Yuno. Oh, is Yuno going to have to use this defensively? I should think not, but maybe. Oh my gosh, this harvester is coming after these V4 rocket launchers as the V4s are destroying those refineries. And goodbye, V4s. They eventually do go down. That hero harvester doing what he can. Yuno flying over, still looking for the perfect spot to utilize that psionic decimator or the nano swarm hive, although this is trapping the Tengus in here with the MCV. The MCV is trapped in there with the Tengus, and psionic decimator fires off, locking down a big chunk of that infrastructure, a couple of buildings as well, spawning in a couple of terror drones, and wow, the range on that fully heroic aircraft carrier is insane. That feels like it's a little bit too far, actually. I don't know how that did that, but from all the way over there, that's crazy distance. That's a quarter of the map. But I feel like they definitely get outranged here, so I don't know. Maybe that was a weird bug. Athena cannons and a couple of Apollos trying to sneak by. Ooh, this twin blade definitely has engineers inside of it. Yep. There's some sneaky moves being attempted by Decerto along the southern edge of the map. Justin having some trouble with that, perhaps in a previous game, has maybe learned his lesson and been able to come back from that kind of a situation. MMR might be, well, I guess he won't have too much to worry about with all of these lovely Tesla troopers near him. 2 chronospheres ready to fire off. Verner and Decerto going to be playing the chrono game, perhaps, with Justin. We'll see which one of them gets the spicier chrono move off first. And Justin with his own proton collider added into the mix moments before the vacuum imploder and the iron curtain of Shewetta. So we might be in for another long one. There's still every single player in this game. Decerto definitely in a little bit less than the other players, but with that oil derrick, it looks like we got ourselves a chronosphere online, ready to go. And what is Justin going to try and utilize that chronosphere on? Scouting coming in here for Yuno. Looking for something. Maybe a chronosphere target. Ooh, that would not be a bad chronosphere target. I don't know if you could get 2 of those aircraft carriers, but the assault destroyer as well, if you could pick that off by dropping it on a cliff, might be nice. Another chronosphere ready to go for Verner. So he's also going to be looking for a target. Ooh, Apollo's getting cleaned up as they fly over those battle bunkers. Some people in the comments always love when the battle bunkers get utilized, so there it is, your battle bunkers with the flak troopers inside of it. Ooh, and that harvester going for the kill on these Tesla troopers. They're just marching their way to victory. We'll see if they actually get anything done. Right now, they're just sort of getting picked off by Imperial warriors, but they're marching their way to victory one way or the other. Victory and glorious death or victory over this power plant. Either one. It's about the same. Chronosphere gets activated somewhere. Goodbye, refinery. Gets cleaned up very nicely there. A couple of multi-gunner turrets and some IFVs, some hydrofoils as well. Going to be going for the kill on those Tengus, and that one Tengu gets stuck out. His friends are not going to be able to help him as that Chrono... Oh, he Chronospheres it out! He escapes! Are you kidding me? Oh, that was almost a genius move, but it just barely doesn't work. Oh, that was so sick. Verner with the plays that don't actually work, but they almost work. And isn't that the joy and the spirit of Red Alert 3? Things that don't work, but almost work. Tengu's now going to try and escape on out of there. They're going to actually catch up a couple of Vindicators. Cleaning those guys up isn't a bad thing at all. And, well, one of the Vindicators actually does manage to escape. Lot of Tengus going down. Eventually, Yuno is going to run out of cash, but maybe not just yet. And, oh my gosh, Yuno just now finally cleaning up those Tesla troopers. Not quite able to stop them from doing some pretty big damage to two of those refineries and almost killing off a war factory. But eventually does stop them. The bottom left-hand corner base has been broken by Justin. He is just clawing through everything in this section of the map. He's going to be kicking out his allied cohorts and taking over that section of the map, perhaps even establishing himself in those expansions. Iron Curtain is ready to go, so we might see some invincible units sooner or later. I don't think anything will happen. I think when the APOC tank reaches the cliffs, it just stops. I don't think it drowns itself trying to crush that building, although that would be kind of funny. It can draw ships to itself, but if it attaches itself to a lighthouse, then it is the one who drowns. Satellite crashes in, cleans up a couple of refineries, or rather cleans up a couple of harvesters and a couple of hydrofoils there. Justin's assault has been halted. It looks like it's going to be slowed down by a mixed allied Soviet force. Everyone has definitely got their little section of the map. A couple of minutes ago, it felt like Justin and Yuno had a clear advantage, and they definitely maybe have the strongest section of the map, but it feels like Shewetta and MMR, they've got this top right-hand corner, and they're holed up in there pretty tight. They've also got the middle of the map pretty nicely locked down. But then Verner and Decerto, who might come back into this game with some lovely engineer tactics later on, have got that left section of the map, and they're holding on to it very tight. We got a little teeny tiny space cable making an appearance here, going all the way up into the sky. Just a little baby space cable. Maybe he'll grow into a big, powerful space cable, and we'll see him a little bit later in another game. Always glad to see a lovely space cable. As the naval forces get partially eliminated by that psionic decimator, they also do somewhat escape. Verner dodging psionic decimators with all his might. Nanoswarm Hive finally back online. Yuno has been utilizing that Nanoswarm Hive quite a bit. We got ourselves another Chronosphere usage somewhere on the map by Justin. Wasn't on that. It was over here. He's going to be sniping another vacuum imploder. This guy going for the big guns one after the other. He finds the perfect spot, and the Iron Curtain keeps it alive. Just barely. But what is the solution to try and stop this big old Cryogeddon firing off on so many? And actually, the Bullfrog as well. But the toxins are going to paint the area. I don't know if it'll be actually enough to kill all of these units, but at the very least, they're going to go for the kill on the infrastructure. An engineer trying to come in here, and it's going to be low power mode one way or the other. This vacuum imploder will not fire off in 30 seconds. It'll take a little bit longer than that. The engineer going for the heal on that super reactor, and now they're going to go for the kill on that vacuum imploder. The consequences be damned. The Tesla troopers closing in, and they barely barely get it, forcing the sell-off. Justin with the clutch plays coming through to kill the vacuum imploder and hamstring the infrastructure of his opponents, even trying to escape the terror of those Tesla troopers and trying to escape the incurring wrath of them. But no, finally, this one clutch terror drone is going to be able to lock down these units and send them to hell. Goodbye, Mirage Tank, as it will eventually go down, but another Chronosphere shows up at the same moment. Verner coming in here to kick him while he's down. He's got himself 3 Assault Destroyers and a couple of IFBs, and he is going to do what he can, but the satellites are going to get called down upon him. The super reactor just barely here. The satellites crashing down, and the Tesla troopers going down in a fiery ball of death. Goodbye, everything in this corner. What an intense little attack there. A combo, 2 players on 2 different teams, utilizing the same tactic to kick them while they're down. Shewetta and MMR, if they are able to hold out in this game for very much longer, that will be simply amazing. They have been taking so much damage in the last minute. They have been getting just beaten up, down multiple times, and eventually they may be knocked right out of this game. They certainly don't have a lot of strength left in them to do much on the offense. Maybe they can stabilize, but at the current moment, they don't have a lot to get out there and attack with. They could try and cross the waters with their army of Kirovs. MMR has got himself quite an impressive air armada, but hydrofoils will make pretty short work of that. Tengus, MiGs, and Apollos will also have something to say, depending on which direction they attack. Oh, some units are starting to move out. I mean, you might as well do something with them. You built all of this stuff. Maybe you can outlast the night, but the end of the day is coming one way or the other. The bullfrogs, are those really the target here? Yeah, the bullfrogs are being kept out of this fight. So he's just coming in here to snipe as many air units as he possibly can, but he doesn't want to contend with the bullfrogs. Yuno with a brilliant move here, locking the bullfrogs out of this fight, but right there it expires, and now the time is up. These Tengus are going down. The EMP locks down some more of those ground units, but eventually the MiGs have to give up the chase. The bullfrogs trying to get in on the action, get frozen in time and place by that EMP and eliminated by the long-range drones of those aircraft carriers. Although it looks like this other bullfrog will actually be able to escape. Not that hammer tank. That was a great move there by Yuno. That was a really clever use of the Nanoswarm Hive just to take those couple of bullfrogs out of the equation. Because with the bullfrogs out of the equation, he can win that fight, or at least do enough damage to do what he wants to do. Hammer tank in the world's smallest attack on Carville. One hammer tank leeching down ever so slowly, just gently killing that harvester and that refinery. And he's going to be surrounded by a big group of Empire Tengus, and he's just going to get wrecked. Chronosphere's on the line. Proton Collider also ready to go as well. And oh no, there's the Chronosphere firing off, trying to catch a couple of those Tengus, it looks like, but it just got that hammer tank. And actually, that was Verner's Chronosphere, so that was not Justin's Chronosphere. That Chronosphere was intending to grab the Tengus and kill them off. So a little bit of a fudge there by Verner, not able to get the value, perhaps, that he was wanting. Verner, sensing blood in the water, thinking that there's weakness waiting in the top right-hand corner of the map, forms up his army for an attack, but will the attack ever come? Himself feeling perhaps not as confident as he was 30 seconds ago when he gave the order. Verner backs off. Crusher Crane in the top left-hand corner of the map. Lovely insurance policy. That guy is not for healing, not for the crushing ability. That is just an insurance policy. How does Decerto have these 2 oil derricks? One of them is on his opponent's island. That's kind of funny that somehow he managed to sneak that out. Tengus get the cleanup on that MiG. Nicely done there. More and more bombing runs making their way, and a big old cryogeddon firing off in the top right-hand corner of the map, trying to shut down some of these base defenses, maybe even shut down this super reactor. But, oh, that's a proton collider! Oh, that was the plan! I'll be honest, I did not see that coming. I was literally about to ask, what is his plan to blow that stuff up? And then the proton collider just landed out of nowhere. So that was a lovely, lovely combo attack there. And I'm guessing a whole bunch of Tesla troopers just died. But we'll see. Does Shewetta just rebuild Tesla troopers until the end of time, or does he have a different plan? Looks like some more infrastructure going down, perhaps a couple of aircraft as well as that psionic decimator making its mark. Aegis Shield a moment too late as Justin's army gets torn apart, but he kills the MCV, and he might even get the Iron Curtain, as there's actually going to be the Emperor's Rage activated on the Apocalypse tank as well, not just on the allied forces of Justin 5959, but also on the Soviet forces of Shewetta. That Bullfrog goes down. The War Factory will be eliminated. An extremely powerful combo is this Guardian tank with the Laser Painter and this Mirage tank, both of them utilizing that Emperor's Rage to just shred absolutely everything in their path. Fully heroic Mirage tank. And this Terror Drone almost got the infect on that, but not quite gonna get the kill on that Terror Drone. Laser Painter going to allow them to kill off that super reactor so quickly. And goodbye. That's a low power mode for Shewetta. Shewetta pretty much down and out in this game at this point. Finally, the Terror Drone does go down. Just not able to keep things running. Shewetta's buildings getting slowly taken down one by one. Tengu's looking for an angle, but actually those battle bunkers, because they don't require electricity, are unaffected by the current situation. Might just be a big sacrifice of the Tengus. A couple of them on the north side actually going to be utilizing that Nanoswarm Hive once again to lock out attacks from outside of that area, trapping the MCV in here with the Tengus and trapping the Tengus in here with the MCV, as the MCV goes on a rally cross and is going to just be crushing so many of those Tengus. Shewetta has been defeated. MMR stands alone in this game. It's a 2v1. He is on the warpath. It looks like 5 Kirovs, a couple of them low on health perhaps, or with the chunks taken out of their health. And Verner at the same time moving out to the south side of the map. Justin and Yuno may have unleashed upon themselves retribution from every corner of the map. Force fire attacking on the ground. I'm not sure what all that is about. But trying to get the Apollos, it looks like. The Apollos up into the air, and they need to start working away at these. Well, they can't quite with the MiGs and the Bullfrogs this close, but as soon as those Kirovs get close, the hydrofoils are going to be able to nuke them, or at least cancel out their guns. MiGs trying to do what they can. The hydrofoils actually aren't in that good of numbers. No, there is actually 3 of them over here as well, so I think a total of 7, and they can use their weapons jammers as well. And now the Tengus showing up since the Kirovs are no longer under the protection of those Bullfrogs. The MiGs and the Apollos trading blows in the skies, but of course there's only one way that this ends. Every single Kirov going down. The damage done to Justin 59 minimal, as one Kirov survives for a moment longer, just long enough to secure almost a kill on that ore refinery. The ore refinery survives. Justin and Yuno have one more attack to hold off, and then this game might be theirs to walk away with. EMP locks down a couple of those units, getting them stuck inside of that cryogeddon range. And that single Peacekeeper going to be looking for a couple of units to break down, utilizing that immense damage potential of frozen units. The cost efficiency of that one Peacekeeper is pretty insane with the help of that cryogeddon firing off. Emperor's Rage going to allow these Tengus to be so cost-effective once again. Literally, it's just a meat grinder of allied units as nearly infinite Empire firepower just cuts through the metal and the bodies of the allied attacking force. A couple of Tengus going down as they cross back through those toxins. MMR sticking around in this game. His entire air fleet goes down. His ally has died, but he holds on to hope. Perhaps against all wisdom, but he holds on to hope nonetheless. Chronosphere ready to go. Proton Collider 50 seconds out. Psionic Decimator 1 minute and a little bit further out. Ooh. Aircraft drone goes down. Shogun battleships getting their shots off, and they will clean up that aircraft carrier, perhaps before either one of them goes down. Yes, indeed. Satellites getting called down, but that is a clumsy tool. There goes the Chronosphere, and of course, with just 25 seconds left on that Proton Collider, this could be a 1-2 punch from Justin. Those Mirage tanks and the Guardian going to be cleaning house, cleaning up so much. That ore collector off the line, perhaps for 5 minutes or more. Who knows? But when you see one off the line like that, you got to wonder how much potential lost mining time is that. That might have been one of the things that killed Verner in this game, thinking that he had that harvester online, but it actually wasn't working that whole time. High technology going down as the what is the battle line for the Allies even called? I completely forgot. It escapes my brain at this moment. But a couple of these multi-gunner turrets do remain, and they will be able to claim one of those Mirage tanks. However, I don't know that one Mirage tank will be enough. Defensive Bureau. Not Defensive Bureau, but a Defense Bureau, rather. A Bureau of Defense. Big Tango attack party in the north. They're going to be able to surround that multi-gunner turret and shut it down nice and easy. Emperor's Rage once again going to allow this Empire force to shred allied buildings, units, and vehicles. Everything just gets shredded. The Mirage tank's eventually going down. The Guardian tank is the last to fall, but the attack has been thwarted. Verner has taken some pretty hefty damage, but he does still have an armor facility, so that War Factory will keep him in the game, even if he doesn't... Oh, how long has this Harvester been off the line? Quite a while, I should think. With nearly 15,000 credits remaining in that ore mine, it should probably be depleted at this point, which means there could be 15K inside of the bank account of Verner if that Harvester had been online this whole time. But instead, 2 Harvesters completely offline. Verner, very unfortunately here, may have been struck down by bugs within Red Alert 3, not actually killed off by bad play or anything like that. But perhaps even his own economy hampered by the bugs of Bug Alert 3. Very unfortunate when you see that kind of stuff happening, and one of those unfortunate things that people try and fix with community patches, but if you don't play on the community patch, and you can't fix them all, so you have to police your own harvesters every once in a while. It's one of those unfortunate realities. And, well, at least the Akula subs are the only thing that can chase down this aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier is going to try and run away. The Akula subs, I think, will eventually hunt it down. But maybe this is actually just the right speed. The aircraft carrier can barely escape when it's fully heroic, but it stops for just a moment, and that will be the doom of this aircraft carrier's toxins get called down in front of it, and the Flak Trooper gets an extra couple of shots off near it. Verner has been defeated. Decerto, what did I call this guy? Decerto? Decerto. That's what I'm calling him. Decerto. He still remains, but he is going to die relatively soon here. And then it'll be just down to MMR to try and do something in this game. I don't think MMR has much of a chance in this match. And, well, Decerto is going to try something. Even the Shogun battleships are actually just actively shredding the Akula subs. And Justin has got a cryocopter just to make sure that nothing is really going to happen with that Akula sub. All right, so MMR is... basically, he's got no chance, but he's still got a fighting chance in his mind at the very least. Decerto really has no chance. But, what was that sound effect? I think something just got taken over or killed or something. I don't know. Ooh, and that is 2 fully heroic Akula subs. Very nicely done there by Decerto. I think Decerto literally has like 3 buildings left on the entire map. And if he loses these 2 in the corner, then he will just die. He will just be out of the game. In the meantime, he's going to maybe eat up the entire allied navy of Justin. Just chomp all over them. Justin and Yuno trying to expand around the map a little bit is Yuno, but not quite able to make it happen. Yuno not realizing that this is the corner with Decerto's stuff. Decerto almost is dead, but isn't quite dead just yet. Oh, well, that's where one of the chronospheres is. That one gets utilized quite nicely. Cleans up one of those Akula subs. The other 3 escape for now, healing up at the current moment, ready to attack once again, but not just yet. Did someone mention? Yeah, someone realized. I don't know how they found out, but they found me. And actually, the tank busters may be able to get it with the help of the balloon bombs. So, oh, the balloon bombs didn't actually finish it off, but there we go. Decerto has been defeated. Verner and Decerto, technically the first team to die, even though Shewetta was the first player to go. MMR has stuck it out in this game. Ooh, get himself a nice 1,000 credits. Very nicely done there. Magnetic Singularity, helping to eliminate a couple of these buildings with those satellites, cleaning up the last refinery. A couple of terror drones getting spawned in here, and that Assault Destroyer will go down. Goodbye, Assault Destroyer. These Tengus will maybe not be able to finish the game, but they'll get real close to finishing the game if he just attacks with them. Yuno and Justin playing this one out pretty nicely overall, but they are having trouble finishing off this last guy. I have a feeling that they both kind of ran out of cash because pretty much all of the ore mines on this map are depleted. So even though they may have 4 or 5 ore mines under their control, I mean, Justin recently had these 2, but I guess he doesn't right now. But they had a decent amount of ore mines under their control, but they're just all depleted, so I think it's like 1/4 the income, or maybe 1/5, so you need literally 4 ore mines, 4 depleted ore mines, to make up the income of 1 regular ore mine. Even if you have the, what is that called? It's called mass production on the Soviet side. It's called free trade? Is it the free trade upgrade? Is that what they call it? Anyways, it gives you extra money very late in the game as allies. And so instead of every ore load bringing in, I don't know, like 50 or whatever from a depleted ore mine, it gives you 75, which definitely does help. Soviets get cheaper production, and I actually don't remember what Empire gets. Late game, what kind of production advantage they get. Hydrofoils take a couple of shots at those MiGs, but really MMR is just trying to defend himself and last a little bit longer. He's got himself a couple of ore refineries that literally aren't doing anything. That actually has 22,000 credits inside of it. Terror Drone and a Magnetic Singularity going to be locking down these buildings, and there's actually going to be the Chronosphere to get away. Perfectly done there with a Cryocopter to freeze that Terror Drone. And actually, now you want the Terror Drone to go ahead and infect something because it's this close to the Naval Yard. You could actually just get it cleaned up that quickly anyways. Tengus are, I don't know, going to try and find an angle to attack or something. Who knows? Psionic Decimator is moments away, as it's already counted down to 0. Nanotech Mainframe is also moments away because it's counted down to 0. And I think Justin and Yuno are going to be able to take this game, although perhaps not super easily. MiG's not really a problem, and I mean, even the Kirov, it might kill a couple of Tengus, but the Tengus can skate faster than a Kirov can can attack. Sonic Decimator is going to be the Arbinger of Doom. Nanotech Mainframe locking those bullfrogs in with that bomb. And we'll see if it actually gets utilized. Let's see if it actually does kill off those bullfrogs. They might be out of range up here on the north side of that. MiGs get taken down. The skies get cleared. Super Reactor and that Super Time Bomb both firing off. The bullfrogs go down. One of them survives, actually. One dies, one survives. Refinery is going to get cleaned up, and balloon bombs getting called in on top of the battle lab to clean that up so these Tengus can attack other targets. And the Kirovs are heading out across the map, but it's a race against time. And I don't think the Winged Hussars are going to save MMR. He's going to try, but I think he might be losing this race against time. A base race against an Empire player and an Allied player that are this spread out around the map when really all you have is Kirovs. That is a tough ask, certainly. Ooh, Magnetic Singularity drawing in a Hydrofoil. No, don't drive into it. Don't drive into the Magnetic Singularity. Oh, well, that guy got removed from that attack for just a couple of more moments. Kirov's heading out. The Tengus looking for targets somewhere. I don't know what those Tengus are doing up there in the north. Kirov's coming in. They're going to be able to bomb out these couple of refineries, but the Kirovs are going to be trading their lives to do it. The Tengus showing up finally to help clear the skies, and the Hydrofoils just eliminating so many of those Kirovs, forcing the sell-off of the Naval Yard, it looks like, as well. So perhaps a little bit of slowed down production. Who knows? MMR has been defeated. Justin and Yuno are victorious. And that actually wraps up the first batch of subscriber replays that I downloaded. Now, this was actually like the August or September video, but the games were a little longer than I anticipated, and a couple of them were so good that they deserved to be in their own videos. So, yeah, we finally got through it. So we've got some more subscriber replays to get through. I'm only a year behind on emails, so we're carving through these emails at record-breaking pace of an entire year. That'll do it for this game. Let's jump into another one. As we continue on the subscriber replay games, we find ourselves at the ever-clipping ground of Magmageddon. I guess nobody noticed that the water clips through the ground there. Anyways, we have got ourselves a 3v3, and after all this 2v2v2 action that we've been checking out, it's nice to see a 6-player game back on the old classic Magmageddon. In the top left-hand corner as the Yellow Soviets, this is Lethec, or Let He See. Oh my gosh, that actually kind of makes sense. It's not proper, but it kind of makes sense. As the Purple Empire, this is Aurora, and as the Blue Empire in the south, this is Unityis1. Meanwhile, on the top right-hand corner, making up our second team, this is going to be a left versus right setup. As the green allies, it's Old. As the red allies in the middle, this is Valera. And as the orange allies get ready for the whining, this is Infamous. All right, a couple of these folks we have definitely seen. If you've been watching games on this channel in the last year and a half, you've seen some of the 2v2v2s, some of the team games, then you will recognize some of these folks. But I will be honest, most of them, Lethec, Valera, Infamous, I guess half. Half of these people I recognize, half of them I don't recognize. So this is a total mixed bag. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Who knows? But as always with these sorts of videos, I normally do leave a recommendation with the timestamps in the description. So if you are wanting to get maximum Red Alert 3 action, then you can ignore that. Just watch the video all the way through. But for those of you who are just looking for the highlights, you can usually get a recommendation there. It looks like something went down, perhaps, right there. But that bear's swinging around anyways. Tengu going for a little bit of harassment. I'm not sure why that Tengu was so damaged. Maybe it took a little bit of damage from those Javelin soldiers as it was flying over or something. But it looks like Unityis1 going to be putting on the pressure against this triple allied team. Meanwhile, some Vindicators doing some damage in the north, cleaning up some Bullfrogs, cleaning up some Terror Drones, and some Sickles. Unityis1 continuing to push in. Big thanks to all the folks who support the channel over on Patreon. At this point, it is very much like a tip jar, so big thanks to those folks who do that over there. Triple Tengu gets the transform to escape the Apollos, but also to get the kill on the Riptide. Very nicely done there by Unityis1. Now, as we all know, this can be a bit of a difficult thing for a low-tech Empire player to break a couple of allied players, especially once they start popping down those multi-gunner turrets, once the Vindicators start making their run-bys. But the nice thing is there isn't a lot of build radius over here on the right side where they can hopefully do a little bit of damage. Killing off a power plant, always nice. Getting a harvester or a refinery kill, also nice. A great way for Unityis1 to do some real damage. Meanwhile, the turret pushing begins in the north. Kicking off with Old pushing into Lethec's base. That expansion going to be going down most likely. But a base, a refinery inside of the main base going down for Infamous. And a little bit of a miscontrol here. A lot of his units getting caught up on each other and not engaging there, so he took more losses there than he necessarily needed to. But overall, he does clean up that attack. But overall, Unityis1, I feel like, got a lot of value for that little group of units. Unityis1 definitely bringing the pain. Ultimately, he lost that entire attacking force, but he was able to capture that. Oh, what is this engineer doing just out by himself? Fortunately, he's up against a Striker VX, which are terrible at killing infantry. But at any rate, Unityis1 definitely doing a lot of damage, and he might actually be carrying the Empire-Soviet team in the south. There's the transform, as unfortunately this Striker is not going to be able to kill off that engineer. The Vindicators get the kill on that Striker. The Apollo's absorbing some of that damage. Aurora going to be expanding to the middle of the map for a 4th refinery, maybe even a 5th refinery, as Aurora has this one out there. The turret pushing continues. Lethec trying to hold the line here, as at the same time, Infamous is going to be having to move his MCV. It's certainly going to be under threat with 4 tsunami tanks putting out constant damage, and the reinforcing or the saving Vindicators coming in here for Valera, it looks like, and the stop move on that MCV, barely stopping it from getting to the ground where it can actually start crushing those tsunami tanks. A perfect block there by Unity. This guy is bringing the pain in a confident way, and he is crushing Infamous. Now, that doesn't mean it'll go as well in the north. Infamous has been defeated. He already taps the GG, and he is out of here, which means it's 3 versus 2, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is an allied push in the north, but it's against tsunami tanks and hammer tanks joining together. This engineer on the front lines, I'm not sure what he's about, but this laser painter doing a good job of cutting down the hammer tank numbers. What is that engineer doing? I genuinely have no idea. Vindicators from Valera coming in to even the odds, but the Bullfrogs take down at least one as the tsunami tank rushes forward to cut down some of those infantry numbers. Valera is the unity of the right side, so Valera definitely putting out a lot of damage over the course of this game. Vindicator bombing runs in the south, infantry in the north, and trying to help both of his allies survive a little bit longer. That is a fantastic, cost-effective move there, utilizing a gigantic amount of point defense drones. Tsunami tanks rushing in. They're getting some damage against the Guardian tanks, but that's not enough to really push back this stronghold, this allied double multi-gunner turret war factory stronghold that the green allied player Old has in the north here. Tengu harass, a good way to try and split the attention of Valera. Valera, who's doing so much in this game on the right side of the map, powering up to, I don't know, 6 or maybe even 7 refineries, as it looks like at least 6 on the right side of the map, trying to get a 7th and an 8th up in the south, but it won't quite happen, as it looks like Unity is down there knocking down that expansion. Meanwhile, Old continues to hold the line, and as long as Old can hold the line with Lethec and Aurora both being caught up in this engagement, he's buying more time for Valera to try and get some kind of game-winning strategy, and cryocopters might be that exact game-winning strategy. The old war of attrition can't continue forever, but if you can keep it going while you get a better plan, that can be something that we sometimes see players actually turn into a victory. In this case, it might actually just be a victory for our team on the left side. Their early 3 versus 2 advantage gotten to them by Unity could just turn into a snowball. Meanwhile, the snowball is reversing here in the north. Javelin Soldier's going to be able to take some shots at those strikers. Meanwhile, the MCV pushing forward. It's going to be taking too much damage. It's going to be going down. The Peacekeepers rushing forward. The Guardian tank splitting away from nothing. And that MCV is going to cut down the build radius. That MCV kill is going to stop the advance or the defense from being quite as strong as this allied advance is looking to break the front line. Valera, this could be what Old was trying to wait for, is a reinforcing attack from Valera, who's going to be able to catch this refinery of Aurora and maybe even this generator core as well. Meanwhile, the harassment continues in Old's base. Old, with the strong deep offense, doesn't have much in terms of defense and could be losing some critical infrastructure as he tries to maintain his Guardian tank pressure on the front line. Is he actually going to be able to push into Lethec's base and do something about it? Because as long as he stays right here, he's going to be losing at his home field on his main base. He's going to be losing back there, and that is not great for him. Javelin Soldier's able to clean up those Chopper VXs, so it's just Guardian tanks with no opposition on the ground. Lethec is completely out of this game, literally just drops out of the match, and we are into a 2v2. Unity and Aurora putting out a lot of damage. Old and Valera doing their best to hold on, and it looks like Valera making some big pushes in the middle of the map, going to be crushing through Aurora, and this could actually be a game-winning move if he shuts down a Tier 3 Mecha Bay, and he gets both of the King Oni which have spawned out of that. That could be really crippling to Aurora. Aurora going to be able to hold on for a moment longer, but no, the King Onis are just going to get frozen down by those cryocopters. Bullfrogs pushing away the cryocopters, and here are the strikers to rescue that, and the War Factory does not survive. The Apollos are perhaps a little bit too late. The Strikers have done the majority of their damage, and now the Apollos will go down, but the Strikers will trade their lives for it. All 3 tanks laser painting. No one actually utilizing their main guns, as these 2 King Onis sit basically useless for the entirety of this match until right now, finally bull rushing their way to victory and carving through a couple of those Guardian tanks. This map has just been cut to pieces, it seems, as these guys have kind of taken this map and turned it into a weird-looking version of itself. It's sort of like top right versus bottom left. Unityis1, we've seen him have some strong moves against Infamous, but then he definitely put the brakes on as his allies in the north did most of the ground fighting and did most of the losing, as it seems. Unity not quite been able to do as much damage. He killed Infamous, but he wasn't really able to roll that momentum into anything. He did some nice harassing, and he actually did, I guess, kill most of the main base of Old, so that's something. He cleaned up that main base, and Old doesn't even have this 3rd refinery anymore, so Old, I think, is just on this 4th refinery location as his only source of income. Going to be soon supplementing that with a 2nd refinery here, and of course that oil derrick churning away a little bit over time, but Valera, just the standout player in the last couple of minutes. Unityis1 is definitely the standout player for the first part of the game, but Valera, able to just play defensively and play a support role for the first part of the game, is definitely not staying in that support role, is definitely being active, you know, utilizing those cryocopters, really trying to make a difference in this game. Sometimes you see players, they're definitely much better as a support player, and that Cryoblast firing off actually doing more damage to the Allied player than it did to the Empire player, and the 2nd Cryoblast firing off not actually going to be much benefit to our Allied player as he gets pushed back. Unityis1 has been slowly building up quite an impressive army, and he was actually able to jump on the Allied forces at just the right time and actually find himself in a army-crushing position. He hasn't won the game with that attack, but boy, oh boy, did he turn the tide of that first motion from Valera. Now, of course, we do have this Guardian tank army in the middle of the map for Aurora to worry about. Those King Onis are not going to last very long, it seems, as they just get absolutely destroyed. One Guardian tank down, 2 down, and a third does not get eliminated before the King Oni falls. And that is unfortunate. But Yari Minisub's clearing out. The water expansion is completely gone. I think that was an airfield or perhaps a naval yard out there, but now that's gone as well. And the power plant gets eliminated back down to, I think, just 1 refinery is old. This guy has been trying to get his economy back online, meanwhile losing a chunk of his Guardian tank army. It looks like also some Empire units going down in this scuffle. The Empire rules the seas, but the Allies maintain a decent amount of control on land. Still no second refinery up and running, but double oil derricks definitely helping out. One of those things that would have been nice to clean up a couple of minutes ago if our Empire players had been able to do that. Unfortunately for them, they're just now getting to that, and that would have definitely hamstrung Old a little bit. But killing off his refinery out on the water was a great move nonetheless. Guardian tanks going to get cleaned up. Couple of Tengus, couple of tank busters. Not exactly a powerful force, but they're doing enough to push back this army. And Psionic Decimator just gets added to the battlefield as once again the Empire ruling the seas is going to be able to take over that water expansion by sinking it to the depths. Every single water expansion has been cleaned up. The Athena cannons, which we saw a little bit earlier, are finally being quite active in this game. There's the transform of that striker. Unity, he's, well, I guess it's going to be up to the wall segments to try and save this base. He expended most of his army, and it looks like he has not been able to tech up to his own Wave Force artillery. He has not been able to do much in terms of building an army to stand against everything that Valera is bringing against him. Wave Force Artillery out. No, not Wave Force Artillery. Shogun battleships, the Wave Force Artillery of the water. And actually, this may work if he's able to cut down the Javelin soldiers. Then there's nothing to shoot the aircraft, and Valera will lose this army. Tsunami tanks rushing forward, but they're no match for this number of Mirage tanks. Drawing this battle out is a great move. These wall segments, the longer you can keep them cranking on the wall segments and not fighting your actual army while the Shogun battleships fire from afar, the better it is for this Empire team. Meanwhile, in the main base, it looks like Vindicator bombing runs continuing to clear the ground, but this might actually just be more of a delay tactic than anything. Cryogeddon going to be firing off here. I think it's just a blast, so I don't think it'll get the War Factory. Nope, it just gets the barracks. So I guess you get what value you can, but actually it's going to be Sentry Bombers coming in here, and Valera with the high power gets both of the refineries, so those are smoked, and suddenly Aurora does not have much economy to fall back on with this Riptide harassing out here on the water. That latent Yari Minisub doing nothing about that harassment, and again, Aurora is just suddenly knocked down onto, I think, 1 working refinery. That is pretty much all he has got going for himself. There's going to be the freeze, but where is the kill? A couple of Peacekeepers press forward, and that's a dead War Factory, a dead power plant as well, perhaps, and a massive army. No, it's just a lot of dots on the mini-map. It is indeed just a bunch of infantry there. The harassment continues. Unity getting his harassment pants back on as he is ready to take on that ore collector, but he ends up getting crushed for his trouble. Unity expands to the right side of the map, taking a southern refinery node, and is going to, well, do a bit of harassing, but perhaps unsuccessfully, as those cryocopters are going to make it difficult for Empire harassment with so few units to be successful. 3 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. Oh, this is a lovely little harassment here, and actually they can get the Peacekeeper. Nicely done. He will be able to eliminate the Peacekeeper with 3. Well, 3 surviving tank busters. That's not bad. That's a power plant killing tank buster army. The Tsunami tanks pivot over here to the right side. This one never actually got cleaned up. It got frozen, but it was never actually destroyed, so it escapes for the current moment. That Harvester goes down, and the replacement Harvester has not been started as of yet. And that Oh my gosh, that tsunami tank actually survives. Brilliant there for Unity. And the fully heroic Guardian tank gets eliminated as we have a psionic decimator that could change the shape of the future of this game. Counting down towards that 2-minute mark. The allied players are going to have to make a play one way or the other. It might be a four-part team of Aurora Sentry Bombers, as actually he just adds on an Apollo, so it will not be 4 Sentry Bombers one way or the other, but it might be a combo attack force. Ooh, the Shogun battleship's finally swinging around to the north side. They're going to be cutting off this refinery, that expansion point of old, knocking him down once again to it looks like 2 refineries. Sentry Bombers go for the run. They clean up a refinery, but still, the Psionic Decimator survives. With a couple of refineries spread out around the map, Unity has been able to hold on for the current moment. Cryogeddon fires off, cleans up both of the Shogun battleships, and this has actually been pretty consistent, action-packed match from these guys, Aurora and Unity, Valera and Old, definitely showing us some entertaining action nonetheless. The other 2 guys, they played their part, but they have not been a part of this game for a little while. Tanya out on the field. No Chronosphere, so no Riptide Tanya kind of action. A couple of Shogun battleships, and actually this Shogun battleship going to be using its own charging ability. Cryogeddon fires off, but actually the Shrink Ray helping one of those Shoguns to escape, allowing it to move that much more quickly, and it might be forced to transform. These Tengus might be forced to transform. We're under 1 minute. This is a lot of cryocopters here. They have no protection. 3 cryocopters remain, but this is just Death City for these cryocopters as they try to escape. One of them does manage to escape, trades out 1 Tengu for 5, no 6 cryocopters as that Shogun battleship charges through a fleet of Riptides. 26 seconds left on the clock as that Shogun battleship finally going down, firing its last shots at a traveling Riptide, not doing much. But with this Psionic Decimator coming so close, is it going to be a shrunk-down IFV? Is it going to be Tanya inside of a Sentry Bomber? What is the play to try and eliminate this Psionic Decimator? Otherwise, you may see an army or a big chunk of your infrastructure suddenly disappear. The Sentry Bomber is here. Tanya is standing by. But the Psionic Decimator is firing off. It's too late. You can stop the next one, but you can't stop that one. Tengu's coming in, perhaps for the transform. Are they going for the kill of Tanya? The time belt won't be good enough. They're going to get the Sentry Bomber. No, they don't. Barely get it. But it looks like it's going to be a war factory, an airfield, and maybe even the MCV going down. This could be critical damage to Valera. Finally knocked down and out. He's still got an army out here on the field. The multi-gunner turret still doesn't come back online, but the MCV goes down. A Tier 3 MCV, the war factory, the airfield, everything going down. Pretty much all of the production is offline for Valera. What you see is what you get. And little baby Bert also knows that, coming through in the background, excited about Valera losing all of that stuff, I guess. King Oni trying to hold its own against all these Javelin soldiers, but that won't work. Goodbye, King Oni. The carnage continues. The Riptides unopposed out on the water. A couple of Yari mini-subs would help to hold the line, but this is like 2 fully heroic Riptides. They do put out a pretty impressive amount of damage against naval units and forces. Tengus are going to get called back, but they're actually going to take a ton of damage as they fly over these IFVs. Actually, only 1 went down. The rest of them did take a chunk of damage, but not enough to be dangerous. They might actually just all die against these Riptides. We shall see. The Riptides trying to engage directly with the Hero Harvester, but is it actually going to be enough? We shall see. 1 more Riptide goes down, and the last one does fall. Valera has been able to survive with a little bit of an attack, but I mean, really, that attack was just distracting Aurora, as it looks like Aurora has now cleared that up. Aurora, not a lot of economy going on. It looks like 2 refineries active. I don't know that Aurora ever rebuilt the MCV. Aurora lost his MCV? I'm not actually sure. I don't remember anymore. It's been too long one way or the other. Unity rebuilding a couple of refineries here, spreading them out around the map, trying to take another location here. I'm not sure where that nano core is going. I love these tank buster surprise hit squads everywhere you look. Valera has been defeated, hands everything over to Old, and Old is the best chance that they have of taking this game. It's going to be a triple allied team, down now to just one allied player against a double Empire Soviet team, down now to 2 Empire players. Will they choose to play the naval game? Will they go into some kind of harassment-oriented play? Lots of Tengus hitting multiple locations at once, everything about divide and conquer, shut down your opponent's economy piece by piece, and try and win that way. This seems like a very strange spot to take a refinery, but Unity has been playing pretty fantastically throughout the course of this game, so we will allow him to take whatever refinery he wants without critique. Apollo's taking some damage, but not enough, it looks like, to take them down. Did a good chunk of damage to that airfield, but not enough to take it down. Ooh, those Apollos made a critical mistake there, crashing into those Tengus. The Tengu's going to be able to escape mostly. A couple of them do go down, one on the ground, one in the sky, against those IFVs. And, well, the harassment game might be the name of the game to try and win the day for our Empire players. Tengus spread around the map, hitting here and there and everywhere. I'm not sure why he's not taking this ore mine. I mean, he's still got $6,000 left in that one, $6,000 in that one. So 12,500 between the two of them. Pretty good source of income. Pretty close. You know, relatively easy to defend by comparison of sending them all the way out here. But I guess these definitely have a lot more cash in them. Wow. 50 grand between them. Another power plant goes down. Every little bit helps in this case. You know, this is not just like armies fighting against armies, but a lot of this hit and run stuff, it definitely adds up over time. You're shrinking your opponent's area of influence. Javelin soldiers getting a couple of shots off there, but this is a great spot to transform, go for some damage. Kill of a harvester isn't the game-winning move here, but forcing your opponent to spend their limited cash on rebuilding harvesters never hurts in this situation. And probably too many power plants anyways, but stopping them from selling them off and also allowing them to, not allowing them to be sold off, but also, you know, maybe eventually forcing them to be rebuilt. Cryogeddon freezes down those, and actually Javelin Soldier is going to get the credit for killing all 4 or 5 of those Tengus out there on the water. Big harassment moves, and he actually has chewed through so many power plants that Old has low power. Old is going to have to sell off some of those multi-gunner turrets to try and re-establish some of those power plants. Killing off that naval yard wouldn't be a bad idea either, since the majority of the forces that Old has are naval forces. Hydrofoils, Dolphins, and Riptides all coming together. Harvester down there in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Tengu's going to be splitting away from this attack. Old trying desperately to hold on. Is he going to be able to mount some kind of incredible comeback? And actually, he's going to be doing that out on the water. He is actually going to be the king of the ocean. The ocean master, you might say. Oh, that was a terrible movie. But, Aurora getting cleaned up on the water. Unity might be pushed out of the water onto the land with that MCV. Yeah, the Riptides might come for you on land, though. You'll be safe from the Dolphins and the Hydrofoils, but yeah, this entire section of the map, Old just cleared out. So if he can hold off this Tengu force, if he can stop this Tengu force from tearing him apart, he will actually stand a very good chance of winning this game. But if he can't stop those Tengu forces, then he's going to have to be a little bit quicker on the draw to clean up all of the buildings and units that his opponents have. Old just needs to hold on to something. He might actually have the superior army if he can just get it into the right position, especially with the hydrofoils, those weapons jammers. I mean, pretty much everything is in range of the weapons jammers, all of the buildings, or many of the buildings. Well, it's a little bit tough when you try and step onto land. I mean, that power plant is going to be really hard to kill with Riptides against a Striker VX. So Aurora and Unity are kind of repositioning themselves wisely a little bit further away from the coastline. Stuff like this can be chipped away at by the Riptides, but the Hydrofoils aren't here, so these Riptides are going to get jumped on and easily defeated. Old's slim chance of trying to make a comeback into this game. I love what he's trying to do here. Taking over the ocean, winning fights where he can, but it's kind of falling apart as he loses his Riptides. He's going to need something else on land to really cut through the Empire forces. Dojo Core potentially getting reestablished. Some of these refineries that are a little bit far out, relatively easy targets. Yari mini-subs spread out, and enough Yari mini-subs that Aurora could actually kill off this Dolphin and stop this Dolphin from harassing so much. The Dolphin will eventually go down there. Multi-gunner turret in the north, it's back online. Unity losing these 2 refineries, it looks like, without a fight. Reinforcements may be coming in. Aurora sending in some Tengus. He's going to have to deal with a Mirage tank and a Guardian tank here. Well, if you can crush this allied army, you have to deal with the infantry parade bush that's coming in from the north, but he might be able to do it one way or the other. A bunch of Tengus to cut off the infantry. That would do the trick. Aurora and Unity. It looks like they've stabilized. They were thrown a little bit for a loop. Fully heroic Yari Minisub barely going to win that fight and actually start to heal up a little bit. Double Dolphin attack squad, not quite good enough. A single Tengu is not enough against all of those Peacekeepers. It will get cleaned up. The Striker VX is not much help. And Old, he has got a serious ground army with these Assault Destroyers with all of the infantry. If the ground army can be split into different groups, like obviously all of the infantry will get chewed up pretty quick by the Tengus, but with the help of the Assault Destroyers, that makes that a lot harder. One Mirage tank isn't scary by itself, but with all of this other allied support, it actually does become quite a problem to stop that Mirage tank. Oh man, those Peacekeepers just get shredded. That entire army, that entire allied support army just was not there. Balloon bombs getting called in, forcing the sell-off of the barracks. I think Final Squadron may have also gotten called in, yep. So the barracks goes down, or gets sold off, rather. The refinery stands. A couple of tank busters there in the north. A couple of tank busters here on the right side getting cleaned up. Strikers going to be transforming. IFVs getting a couple of shots off there, but not enough to turn the tide. The Allied army is arriving in the south. It's taken a long time to get there. It is battered and bruised compared to what it was. And actually, these 2 Assault Destroyers may actually get jumped on by these King Onis. Double Bull Rush and a couple of blasts. A missing precision bomber. And the Aurora might be able to catch this Allied army, cut it off in the middle, and just cut it to pieces piecemeal, bit by bit, chopping apart this Allied armor. This Allied armor is just falling. Hydrofoils out there on the water, starting to make headway into the south. That Mirage tank and this Assault Destroyer, they're going to find some kind of damage, but it might mostly be against walls, which wouldn't be fantastic. And these reinforcements getting destroyed. 2 more Assault Destroyers going down. It looks like Old's attack has got a time clock on it. It's a ticking time bomb, one way or the other. It's either going to win the game or lose the game, it seems. A couple of tank busters do get caught, but the Tengus and the Strikers do manage to escape. Crowdgeddon firing off. It freezes barely that power plant and locks it down, but the reinforcements are here. They manage to catch a Riptide and a Guardian tank, both out and away from the strength of the army. You really need everything together to cut through this Empire force, and now let's see if Old has what it takes. He's getting pulled this way and that. A couple of infantry getting left behind and crushed by that tsunami tank, and eventually the Assault Destroyer does get the kill there. King Oni's going for the Bull Rush once again. There's the collapse, the surround. 2 points for Unity and Aurora as they collapse as a team and crush Old between them. A great finisher there for Aurora and Unity, barely able to come out ahead. It seems like as Old doing a phenomenal job of just mounting the comeback. He kind of recognized his one hope of turning things around was to do that big punch through his naval forces, realizing that his opponents had kind of neglected the water for a little while, and he was able to gain some ground that way. But ultimately, Aurora cutting off the army in the middle, stopping the parade push, stopping the reinforcements from joining together, ended up being such a critical move there for Aurora and such a game-winning moment of clarity for him. That'll do it for this game. Let's jump into the next one. And that takes us to Hostile for a 2v2 sent in by somebody in the top left-hand corner as the Purple Allies. This is Frontline. And their ally going for perhaps not so much in the readability or the pronunciation department, but, going for a fast airfield. So let's get this underway. This is a bunch of numbers. His name is U1092299. Meanwhile, as the Green Soviets in the top right-hand corner, as the Green Soviets, this is wandereich? I don't know. Wandereich. And as the Red Empire in the south, this is Yuri Prime. Okay, Vindicators passing through the middle of the map. It looks like an engineer probably went down. Vindicators looking for more targets. Dogs and Bears going to be dueling in the northern part of this map, but that fast airfield paying dividends for a bunch of numbers. Does it actually, translate long-term into the game? That remains to be seen. Fast third refinery going to be coming out. So this is a counterplay by Yuri Prime. He's saying, well, if you're going to snipe my engineers, I'm going to, I guess, try and keep your Vindicators. Oh, he actually missed the engineer here. So fast airfield, and he misses one of the engineers. I think Yuri Prime is going to be in an all-right position, depending on what this MCV in the south is doing, to counter this in the next couple of minutes, but Yuri Prime still needs a minute or two to get himself underway and stabilized with a bunch of Tengus and a lovely Mecha Bay. Meanwhile, in the north, Bears getting cleaned up, the Dogs cleaning up some of the other forces, but not a lot of forward momentum for Frontline. Not necessarily going to be able to push much further forward. And now that the Vindicators, it looks like a bunch of numbers is actually going to be focusing all here in the south, and that's where things become a bit problematic for Yuri Prime. This is where lots of airfields or lots of Vindicators and multi-gunner turrets can really start to add up. But if the Vindicators are here in the middle of the map doing nothing, that's where Yuri Prime gets an ability to just run away with this game. But it's not what we're going to be seeing. One power plant going to be coming down potentially here, getting eliminated. Bunch of numbers cleans that up very nicely just as the multi-gunner turret pops right next to this harvester. It's going to get repaired up a little bit, but that won't be enough to keep it alive. The Mecha Bay is going to be under threat. The dojo is going to be a little bit late, and some wall segments to try and keep this base alive, keep that Defender VX alive. But now the Mecha Bay is going to be the thing that takes the damage. Two multi-gunner turrets, which means any EMP or any engineers to try and jump inside of this war factory and save it health-wise is going to be somewhat hampered. The Mecha Bay getting dangerously close, and it will be sold off. The cancel there, and now this attack is even more deadly. Although this Vindicator taking a ton of extra damage here by just hanging around, it will not go down, just barely surviving as the tank busters are actually going to push away this base. Two multi-gunner turrets continuing to wail away at this Empire infrastructure, and the three refineries is really more like two refineries, but plus two oil derricks for Yuri Prime. Looks like Frontline is pushing in the north as well, stopping by to get a quick third refinery before continuing the turret pushing mayhem in the north. And it's going to be a Tesla coil as the response, perhaps, although it gets stopped just at a moment's notice there. Lovely reactor from wandereich, and he is going to be able to maintain some kind of build radius here to potentially push back this allied force. The tank busters doing a good job of keeping that MCV at bay, but it won't work forever. Vindicator's going to make another bombing run against these tank busters, and this is a lot of tank busters to try and eliminate, which is why the power plant is just going to be sold off. Naval Yard gets established in the south, and a new airfield will be established shortly thereafter. However, the income is about to expire as the multi-gunner turrets show up in force for Frontline. Reactor going down to try and block off some of these buildings, and I don't know how much it's actually going to be doing for wandereich. We'll see if that reactor really plays much of a role in this game. Pressing in a little bit here. The Vindicators are actually going to be going to refuel over on the other side of the map. The MCV is here in the south, but the economy has now expired. Bunch of Numbers has got no income left, and he is going to have to find himself a new way to win this game without much income. I assume he's got a refinery about to pop in this location, but he is, again, pretty hampered. Yuri Prime still with the 2 oil derricks cranking away in the middle of the map. And, well, as long as he can keep at least one of these refineries online, which is a bit problematic for him. But if he can keep one of these refineries online, his income is actually okay by comparison to a lot of the other players. Frontline is probably doing the best on the income front. Refinery finally comes up for Bunch of Numbers, but the Harvester immediately offline. This poor schmuck, he has got nothing going for him other than his aircraft, but that unfortunately does put a damper on things, and wow, he completely misses with that cryo shot. That is just not something you want to see if you're the allied player. Multi-gunner turrets going down once again, getting placed close to these hammer tanks. The leech beams going to try and even the odds. The Dolphins forcing our Empire player on to land, and it looks like an airfield is going to be claimed. Even a couple of these Vindicators might go down while they're on the deck. Vindicators refueling, desperately trying to get out enough bombs to stop these tank busters, but it won't be enough. The Bullfrog's going to be claiming 1, 2, maybe even 3 or 4 victims as every single Vindicator goes down. Frontline nearly able to march away with this game, but it looks like his own front line is crumbling as his back line gets demolished. The assault destroyer getting shut down by a terror drone. And no second terror drone to keep things in lock, but this game quickly deteriorating and falling to pieces. A couple of Tengus coming in. Finally, after so long, Yuri Prime actually producing Tengus in this game. He never got the opportunity. The multi-gunner turrets were a little bit too fast, too furious. This Harvester is still offline. Are you kidding me? Bunch of Numbers on one hand. He's had some good execution moves. On the other hand, he is completely flubbing this in a terrible way. Yuri Prime still trying to hold on to everything that he's got left on the map. It's slowly getting encroached upon by these multi-gunner turrets, by this allied base. He's going to try and sneak out a refinery to the middle of the map somewhere, claim one of those refinery locations. This hammer tank and the tank busters that used to be here have cleared out the base of Frontline, but Frontline is just re-establishing himself in the base of wandereich. And, well, I guess maybe if he could get a couple of Tesla coils up, that would be something. Even just one Tesla coil would really slow down this assault, but things just turning from bad to worse for both teams in a way. Both teams making just a ton of mistakes and just having, in some cases, like some bad fortune, and in other cases, just some desperate situations. But that Harvester actually survives, at least for the current moment. The Apollos get the kill on the Striker as the Striker eliminates that assault destroyer, and this Harvester still offline. How does this guy have any cash at all? He's got this expansion up here cranking away, so he should have 2 refineries, but he only has 1. Javelin Soldier breaking down this refinery, and eventually the Harvester goes down. The conscript will get eliminated by the dog, and it looks like Wander is going to be able to lose his main base. It's going to be taken over completely. The Tengus get frozen. One of them manages to escape just barely, and I don't know, a assault destroyer or something going down as conscripts joining the assault on this island. Oh, that Peacekeeper just barely too late. Frontline clearly sold off that refinery so he could get the kill on those Tengus and manage to kill them off when they are frozen, but it just didn't work out. Bunch of Numbers is going to try and, I think, establish his own new main base. Well, no, actually, his MCV is over here. I thought he was just going to take over Yuri Prime's old base. Yuri Prime with 3 oil derricks in the middle of the map. That is at least consistent income. It's not a lot, but it's at least consistent income. Tengu's going for the harass. Things starting to look a little bit normal, and yet they look nothing like normal. They could actually clean up both of these. Well, not now with the 3 multi-gunner turrets. That makes it harder. But he could have gotten both of those Javelin soldiers if that multi-gunner turret hadn't gone down, hadn't been placed. A couple of more Dolphins. Our allied forces are trying to control the waters. A very surprising game that this is turning into. Cryoblast fires off. The multi-gunner turret is there to push away this expansion. But for now, this hammer tank may actually stop the allies from expanding there for the current moment. Frontline and Bunch of Numbers with their expansions on the left side. That's one thing that they do have going for them. A couple of conscripts going to be doing some harassing of this Harvester. Not something you see very often is Harvester getting harassed by conscripts. Plain and simple. And it looks like they have discovered the secret base out here on the water. The multi-gunner turret is the target, and it mostly goes down. It takes a lot of damage, but the Tengus are stacking up on top of each other. They're not all getting their guns onto this multi-gunner turret at once, and the power plant may actually be the better choice since the second multi-gunner turret gets established here. Very unfortunate for those Tengus that they did not have an easy kill of that base. Bunch of Numbers is not willing to give it up. The Apollos just explode as this striker is desperately trying to kill off this Riptide before the freeze happens. And barely, he does save everything here. The refinery survives the freeze. So does the Mecha Bay, as that's only a tier 2 freeze. Not enough to freeze those buildings. Tengu's sharking around the map, looking for openings, looking for opportunities, but they'll get caught by the hydrofoil. One cleaned up, and the other almost eliminated. He cuts the corner, and he barely does manage to escape that hydrofoil. I thought for sure that Tengu was going to go down. It is the center of the map versus the perimeter, as it looks like this hammer tank barely out of range of that multi-gunner turret. Sometimes you use the leech beam a little bit too close to the multi-gunner turret, and you don't actually outrange the multi-gunner turret. But very carefully done there by Wander. Does manage to keep himself alive in that way. Javelin Soldier and a couple of Peacekeepers going to get cleaned up there. The dog as the response. Still no additional Harvester here on this base for Frontline. Hasn't rebuilt this ore collector either, but he has re-expanded to his own main base. He has maintained control of that left side. So Frontline definitely controlling most of the income in this game. Lovely Tengu harass here into the south by Yuri Prime. Going to be able to cut down that Harvester collection and slow it down a little bit if he can escape. Actually, he doesn't even need to escape, as that Tengu is now going to hunt down that Harvester, or hunt down that Vindicator, excuse me. And the Tsunami Tanks and the Strikers going to be able to clean up this airfield. So very nicely done there by Yuri Prime. And suddenly, Bunch of Numbers, who was in an okay position, starting to stabilize on his 3 refinery economy, is going to be knocked out of his seat once again. He's maybe even going to be losing some critical infrastructure as power plants and refineries get sold off. He's going to have to rebuild that stuff on the left side of the map, and Yuri Prime has an opportunity to sort of sweep around the map and do some real damage here. Multi-gunner turrets protecting allies is one way to keep yourself in line, or online in this game. Spread out the cost of defense. The Strikers can start poking away at this MCV. Maybe they can get some shots against... Ooh, there's the Transform to try and escape. And, yep, not fast enough on the assault. So Yuri Prime won't be able to get an easy kill of that MCV or a slowdown of this expansion. Still, some infrastructure here on the left side of the map could be vulnerable. 2 multi-gunner turrets on the left side makes that difficult. One you can burst down, but the power plant may also be a target of choice. Cryoblast fires off. The Harvester dies. I think the refinery will survive, yeah. Wall segments getting cleared up. Wander has been able to rebuild a bit. Got himself 1 oil derrick and 2 refineries on the high ground. 2 refineries for Yuri Prime as well. This base is actually pretty open for the taking in the south there. It would definitely be a risk to try and expand there, but it's something that is on the table, potentially, for these players to attempt. That is actually a lot of strikers. Yuri Prime has got a pretty terrifying amount of firepower on the ground. Leech beams working away at these multi-gunner turrets, and they're slowly going to try and save this ore refinery. Reactor getting dropped just to help block off this ore refinery from being cleaned up. I think, yeah, what are these things called? Vindicators. I almost wanted to call them Vertigo Bombers, but that's Cadence Wrath. That's not quite right. Vindicator is going to be able to kill off one of those harvesters on the high ground. But once again, the airfield goes down. The strikers pull away from that multi-gunner turret, and they're going to start targeting down the MCV. They're going to go for the kill, and they might actually sacrifice themselves to get a guaranteed kill on the MCV. Yuri Prime gets the kill. The Hydrofoils and the Apollos, with the help of those multi-gunner turrets, will clean up the rest. 1 striker escapes. 1 tsunami tank, 3 tsunami tanks actually do manage to escape, although this one gets split off to the right side. Meanwhile, on the high ground, Frontline pushing forward. Vindicator comes in, but it gets cleaned up by the Bullfrogs. And there's a roar that goes off, locks down a big chunk of that infantry army, but the Tengu gets cleaned up, and the Assault Destroyer is slowly but surely going to be dying. There's the activation of the special ability for those tsunami tanks, but they don't go for the crush of this infantry army. The burst damage is impressive. Big lockdown on those on those Javelin soldiers, on those Peacekeepers, and finally the infantry army gets cleaned up. The Vindicator escapes with his life. Bunch of numbers hanging on just barely. Those harvesters not getting back to work. Very unfortunate for bunch of numbers. This poor guy has been trying to just harvest a little bit of income. And I'm not sure if this is one of those situations that probably makes sense for a bunch of numbers to leave the game and just hand over his income to the guy who actually has an MCV and has some production. I think Bunch of Numbers is just trying to set up some expansion points first and then potentially hand over everything to Frontline to try and 1v2 this situation. Yuri Prime and Wander going to be putting some pressure on this base. I guess this is sort of the second or the third base of Frontline, but the original main base of wandereich. Extra gun on that hammer tank. The Mirage tank scaring away those hammers. And a big EMP could actually change the course of this game. Frontline with an aircraft carrier managing to get out that Tier 3 Allies tech. But Yuri Prime is not giving up. Yuri Prime might be the guy who kind of cleans up the edges of the map. Meanwhile, Wander and Frontline duke it out on the front lines. Aircraft carrier is here. Not sure what that was. That like damage animation playing for one reason or another. A couple of strikers are there. Riptide trying to... Oh! I did not realize that the drones get taken out by the stasis of the Terror drone, apparently. Cryogeddon firing off. It's going to be a big miss, but this will be enough to break the attack on this aircraft carrier. The drones will get cleaned up by the Bullfrogs, it looks like. A couple of them do land their missiles, and this aircraft carrier is going to get pushed away, but the Terror drone goes down to the multi-gunner turrets. And this is one of those situations where Wander and Yuri, I think, need to not get totally sidetracked by what's directly in front of them. They have to keep up the pressure around the edges of the map. They have to shut down this expansion. If they could curb this expansion over here, that would also go a bit of distance to them being able to take this game. And yeah, those drones getting cleaned up by the stasis of that Terror drone. And finally, this Terror drone will go down. I think the third Terror drone maybe to be eliminated. Apollos are here, but where are the Bullfrogs? As, well, a couple of these Apollos may actually go down to the strikers. Engineer will be able to jump inside of that super reactor, heal that up to full health. A small price to pay for that security. A lot of leech beams, but not enough to quickly make work of these allied units. This has bought a lot of time. Meanwhile, while we were distracted by the naval battle, Frontline has got himself Athena cannons, Mirage tanks, and a big infantry army to start pressuring the high ground. And now that he's got artillery on the ground and in the water, he might actually be able to just chew through this base bit by bit. There may not be any stopping him. No EMP use here, although toxins, it looks like, are going to get called in on this Mirage tank as everything else avoids the area. Leech Beam's going to eat up that Mirage tank, giving a Mirage weapon to one of those hammer tanks. Aircraft carrier continuing to make bombing runs. Final squadron gets called in, and it's going to be the defense of Wander and Yuri. They're going to have to try and call this one in and pull out a big win for themselves against the impossible army of Frontline. The tech is not on their side, but let's see if the control can be. Apollo's pushing away the strikers. The Bears rushing forward, going to try and cut down the infantry numbers while the Athena cannons get dealt with by the hammer tanks. The assault destroyers, too much firepower with the Mirage tanks, and the assault destroyers absorbing the damage of the hammer tanks. Finally, the reinforcements for Yuri Prime coming in, turning the tide, and the two will remain victorious. They have not stopped that aircraft carrier. The super reactor getting dangerously close to going down. He sells it off safely to secure that, to stop that explosion from tearing his base apart. The Athena cannon starting to chip away at these hammer tank numbers. The first pushback of that attack may not have been enough. The economy has been cut down. Yuri Prime has reestablished his own main base. He's finally up to Tier 3, but his Wave Force artillery are a little too late. A new base established almost every minute by Frontline and bunch of numbers. This Tesla coil not doing anything without a super reactor to power it. The super reactor almost online, but wandereich is not having a good time of keeping his base rolling with his limited economy. Extremely limited economy with all of the pressure he's taking. Multi-gunner turrets stopping him. Oh my gosh, that multi-gunner turret coming so close to killing off that refinery, but it barely survives. A safety reactor getting established at the same time, and it's going to be Cryo getting to freeze down the forces of our Soviet player as the Mirage tanks pushing forward. The Athena cannon on the low ground, but this war factory getting struck down will cut down the production of wandereich, and it looks like the terror drones are going to do the majority of the damage to this army. Javelin soldiers getting cleaned up by the Bears, but they take refuge inside of the building. Natasha coming in for a kill here as it looks like the strikers marching forward to their doom. Natasha trying to find some value, but cleaning up one Mirage and one IFV at a time may not be the best thing for the Soviet player. Natasha comes in, and no, Natasha goes down before the shot actually lands. Wave Force artillery cleaning up Peacekeepers, but this is just more time for Frontline. More reinforcements coming in. Wave Force artillery should be able to shut this down, but no, the cryocopter gets the shrink on one of the Wave Force artillery, and this Athena cannon still putting out some damage, but killing off that refinery continues to be damage that might not ever be answered. As wandereich has been defeated, it all comes down to Yuri Prime. Frontline versus Yuri Prime, but Yuri Prime is getting cut down at the knees, perhaps from every angle. Another Wave Force artillery gets eaten up by the Mirage tanks, and there's too much damage by our allied player. The super reactor, the battle lab, all under threat, as this allied force perhaps won't be stopped. One cryocopter does go down. The Bullfrogs getting some victories there. Barracks getting established, but tsunami tank after tsunami tank going down. These Mirage tanks finding so much value in eating up this high-tech Empire army. Taking control of these buildings ended up being a great move for Frontline as he just cuts through the defense of Yuri Prime. That Athena cannon never being stopped, and Yuri Prime has been defeated. Frontline gets the win. Bunch of numbers sticks in there for the entirety of it, and what a win by Frontline. What a weird and wonky game that turned into. Round and round as these guys were trading blows, but in the end, that resource graph somewhere around the middle of the game just took off for Frontline, and never were they able to catch up. In the end, this guy, felt like twice as much income as everyone else, and yeah, just about nearly 170,000 credits compared to the number 2 guy at just under 100K. And certainly a bunch of numbers had a big part of the game in the middle, in the first half. Not so much in the second half, but keeping those expansions coming, that just opened up more opportunities for Frontline to be able to just crush it with that high-tech army. Anyways, let's jump into another subscriber game. And would you look at that, we are back on Magmageddon with the lovely statue heads there on the ground for another 3v3 in the top left-hand corner as the green allies give it up for Fury. Their ally as the yellow playing Empire. This is ANF. And in the south, the third player on team number 1 as the Blue Soviets. This is Endymion. I'm going to call him Endy because that seems easier. Let's kick it over here to the right side as the Cyan Soviets. This is Libra. That's Libra, not DDF Libra. And as the Red Empire, this is Yuri Prime. And as the Orange Allies in the north, this is Infamous. Now we have ourselves Allies in the north, Empire in the middle, and Soviets in the south. A perfect split from each team. One representative of each faction, and lined up perfectly in a set of mirror matches, north to south. What a delight we have on our hands in Magmageddon. A little bit of tussling here in the south. Libra able to secure that oil derrick, but ANF looking to take it for himself. The Bears are causing some problems, the Flak Troopers as well. That Imperial Warrior hoping to kill off the Flak Trooper, and that Dojo Corps getting so close to being able to do something, but ultimately not doing anything just yet. Enderman going to be going with the Stingray option. So right into the naval yard for Endy. Meanwhile, we saw the super reactor getting placed down by Libra. It's in the base of Yuri. And of course, that means that his defense might be a little bit late, but of course, his tech up is going to be a little bit faster than Endy. First Stingray gets grabbed by that terror drone and the hammer tank as well. Big Peacekeeper numbers in the north. Fury and Infamous looking at each other very cautiously, very carefully, as that Dojo Corps steps a little bit too close, takes a little bit too much damage, and, well, that is what a hammer tank with a little Tesla weapon on it looks like. So now we all know. I can't think of the last time I saw a hammer tank leech down a Stingray. I'm sure it's happened before, but I just can't think of a single time when it has happened. Tengu flying around as the MCV repositions itself. Infamous going to be jostling for the center of the map. These two refinery locations, quite common to try and take these. It looks like Fury is going to try and secure them first. The southern one first. Infamous secures the northern one first on his side. Tengu's running little harassment paths left and right, looking for openings, looking for opportunities as Apollos push back aircraft. Harvester's getting shut down. ANF has his own two Tengus. He's going to try and jump on the Tengus of Yuri Prime, and he might actually be able to catch them. This Harvester doing a pretty good job trading out with these Tengus, but they should be able to escape very nicely. Yuri Prime going to stick around and fight it out, but of course that's going to be a losing proposition whichever way you slice it. He can hope for one kill, and that is what he gets, a single kill with that Tengu. More Tengus coming out for Yuri Prime. Hammer tanks in the middle for Libra. Libra not aggressively expanding, just taking a third refinery, doing it nice and slow. Endy going for a bit of pressure in the early game, but significantly backing off of that at this point. Tengus tussling in the middle of the map. Over the mountains they go, and Yuri Prime is going to get the jump on ANF, going to be able to eat up 2 Tengus for the price of 1 with a distinct Tengu advantage. Now might actually be able to jump on some of these other reinforcements coming in here. It's just going to be Imperial Warriors, but that'll give Yuri Prime the courage to step forward and potentially do some damage. Fury coming in with the reinforcements. Double Vindicator run by as he cleans up 2 of those Tengus basically for free. Multi-gunner turrets tussling in the north. It's going to signal an attack for Infamous as, well, Yuri Prime continues the push. 4 Tengus showing up, and it's going to be 4 against 4 with the help of the Peacekeepers, with the help of the Imperial Warriors, kind of on both sides as the Peacekeepers from Infamous get in on the action. Javelin Soldiers going to be targeting down that MCV just as an additional multi-gunner turret gets deployed, and the MCV goes on the offense. He's going for the crushes, but he's ignoring all of the Imperial forces to the south. Tengus escape. Peacekeepers keep up the pressure, and this multi-gunner turret isn't going to last much longer. Another Tengu getting low on health. Vindicators getting eliminated from both sides as Fury and Infamous shoot down each other's aircraft. ANF with a couple of reinforcements here to try and hunt down the last of the Peacekeepers, the last of the Imperial Warriors, which are actually in quite good numbers. Fury with a couple of Riptides going to try and stop this attack, stop the harassment which threatens his Harvester. Meanwhile, in the south are Soviet forces engaging with each other. A Terror drone taking a couple of shots, a couple of Twin Blades as well, looking for angles and opportunities. Yuri Prime reinforcing with a big squad of Tengus. Multi-gunner turret gets sold off, but the refinery falls. Fury is crumbling in the north, desperately hoping to hold on, but it's going to become increasingly difficult as he is only at 3 refineries, and he is going to slowly, potentially get choked out here. We'll see if he's able to maintain any kind of ground control, as our team on the right side is looking poised to push in and try and do some damage. Strikers, or Tengus, are here trading 1-to-1, but the Apollos joining in for Fury, allowing those Tengus of ANF to absolutely shred their opponents. Vindicator's taking a lot of damage. The Javelin Soldiers getting a couple of shots off as well. Fury getting eliminated there as Infamous pulls away with 2 very damaged Apollos. 1 Vindicator going down, the other one surviving, at least for the current moment. But Endy in the south pushing in. He's going to be able to catch 1 of the Twin Blades. The Terror drone's causing some problems for his Hammer tanks on the ground, but it looks like Endy has the superior numbers, at least for the current moment, or no reinforcements look like they're heading to save Libra. Meanwhile, in the north, Fury continues to try and hold his ground, getting ever closer to pushing back this attack, but at the same time, ever closer to the attack breaking through his walls and cutting down his last expansion. Going down to just those 2 refineries would be difficult to keep his production up from that point. Bear's going to get the drop on a couple of these Tesla Troopers, and the Terror drone is going to be able to clean up the Bears, stop them from eliminating those Tesla Troopers, and very nicely done. 3 Bears going down there before they finally get another roar off against those Tesla Troopers. Hammer tanks against Hammer tanks. Endy's got the superior numbers, and with the help of ANF, he may be able to crush through this. Those tank busters are going to make short work of the enemy armor. Tsunami Tank comes in, and Tsunami Tank gets eliminated. The EMP gets dodged perfectly there by Yuri Prime. And finally, the Oil Derrick has gone down, and Akula Sub on the right side of the map, kind of in the south, but going to be able to clean up that expansion. A nice little bit of harassment there. Endy turns to the north. He splits his attack. I don't know if this is actually the right move strategically, but it's going to take some of the pressure off of Fury and might allow Fury to take back one of those expansions that he's lost. Yuri Prime taking some pressure out on the water, but also on land, getting a little bit distracted here as the Tengus are going to be taking damage from the Bullfrogs. 3-4 of them even dying as the Hammer tanks start to engage. The Vindicators come in to clean up one one of the bullfrogs, but those bullfrogs have paid for themselves. ANF and Fury, sensing blood in the water, reposition themselves more towards the middle of the map, and that looks like a cruiser with a katana strapped to its bow. A Naginatana, if you will, the most deadly warrior on the seas. The first Athena cannon is out. Infamous is going to be able to take these shots at his opponents from a distance, safely wearing down his enemy army. Always a dangerous moment if you are not ready for it. ANF returns, big group of Tengus, but no strikers, no bullfrogs to clean up these Tengus in the sky, so Yuri Prime gets the little bit of damage without much in the way of return fire. Ore Collector getting, oh wow, that point defense drone to save that Ore Collector. I don't know that that is really worth it, but that is what happened. I guess that Ore Collector is going to be safe for the next minute or two. Tsunami Tank's taking a bit of damage here, not going for the crush. Riptide maybe going to try and sneak in and do some harassment in the north. Infamous might not be ready for that. Tank Buster into his hidey hole he goes. Big group of Tengus, but are they going to get outclassed by the superior technology of ANF? We shall see. There's the big transform trying to engage with the strength of the Tsunami Tanks. It's going to be a little baby cryo shot firing off, but that's not much help at all. And this allied army can actually be somewhat avoided if he's able to escape out onto the water. But there's the big transform. Emperor's Rage firing off on these Tsunami Tanks. And the Tengus clean house. But will they be able to stop this attack? It looks like the answer is no. Yuri Prime going to be taking some heavy damage here if he doesn't have anything to stop this attack. There's that Harvester all ready to go to war. Infamous taking some damage in the north. It looks like Assault Destroyers trying to make some headway, ultimately destroying the War Factory, but maybe not too much more. And the Mecha Bay might be the target here as the Tengus split off to start attacking those Harvesters. Yuri Prime has the right idea. Striker VX could do some real damage, but it just gets targeted down. He doesn't actually utilize it, paying attention somewhere else as the Mirage Tanks and the Guardian Tanks making headway in the north. Fury crumbling once again under the pressure, but the Mecha Bay still stands, just barely surviving. These two Tsunami Tanks are going to have a lot of Tengus to tussle with. Only 4 Tengus actually, as a what killed that Tsunami Tank? Oh, it was Shogun Battleship from the water. The War Factory survives. Yuri Prime does manage to hold on. Fury has actually cut through the refineries of Infamous. He's saying, you kill my refineries, I will kill yours, but the dogs are going to put a stop to that. This dog getting some real damage done with these 3 Javelin Troopers stopped. The airfield will not fall. The MiG going for the kill on the Twin Blades, but the Bullfrog from Endy is here to try and push that away. Akula subs making their way out. We've already seen a Shogun Battleship here, and that's the big crush. Tsunami Tanks going for the kill, but this is a lot of Mirages. No Athena cannon to hold the line. It's just Mirages and Guardians. ANF is looking to go for the kill on Yuri Prime. He turns to the south. Is he going to be abandoned? Is Yuri going to be abandoned by Infamous? It looks like Infamous turns back to the north, but he's juggling his position. The MCV under threat. The MCV of Fury is also here. This is a genuine MCV. I'm not sure what he's doing here at this position. What a base push this would be as Yuri Prime sells off his tier 3, and that MCV is just going to be absorbing damage. Cryoblast fires off, only catches one of the Mirage Tanks as the Twin Blades are going to target down these Tsunamis. The refinery survives just barely, keeping the economic hope of Yuri Prime alive, and he is going to gun for that Mecha Bay, hoping to cut off the ability to rebuild. Actually, if he gets the Mecha Bay, if he could get the Super Reactor in the Tier 3 as well, but no, the Twin Blades and the Strikers do the damage. ANF sacrifices his entire ground army for that attack, and ultimately, he comes up short. It took a combined defense, though. Infamous and Yuri Prime, Libra as well, trying to participate in that defense, but ultimately they may have taken damage other places. They may have stopped the army, but did they lose somewhere else? Infamous has had to abandon his base. Yuri Prime is doing okay, but only out on the water, hanging on by a thread on land, but hanging on nonetheless. Meanwhile, in the south, Bullfrogs taking shots at everyone. Tengu's in the sky for ANF, but they're getting shot up by Libra's Bullfrogs. A couple of Twin Blades here and there. Looks like they're also going down. A lot of Mirage tanks turning into a big pile of rocks as Endy loses infrastructure, an MCV, a refinery, and an airfield, all going down to the high-tech powerhouse of Infamous. Peacekeepers versus Javelin Soldiers. It always comes back to the infantry in Red Alert 3, if you're playing allies at least. Those Peacekeepers and Javelin Soldiers seem to never lose value. Bullfrogs getting free damage against 3, almost 4 Twin Blades of Endy. And actually one of these Twin Blades gets paused there, so goodbye, that 4th Twin Blade gets eliminated. Tengu or something going down as that Terror Drone does its job. 2 fully heroic Shogun battleships from Yuri Prime to clear the waters. Another Tengu gets sniped from the skies. I guess that's what happened over at the little bit further left. Infamous just cutting through everything on land with his Guardian Mirage army. The Javelin Soldiers also backing up the allied armor. Peacekeepers trying to defend their Javelin Soldier buddies and barely able to do it. No! The lag killing that one after the animation is already played. Fury getting cleaned up once again, but this time it's by Yuri Prime. He just cannot hold on to this position. A couple of Tengus are going to be here just to keep a watch on everything. Snipes down a cryocopter. Satellites called in, but that's a clear miss. Shogun battleships have cleared literally everything out of here. And this aircraft carrier is no help. Giant cryo blast firing off, maybe even a cryo get in there as this Mirage tank and everything else dodges it. The Terror Drone almost gets the Mirage stuck inside of that range, but not quite. Cleaning up everything. Mirage tanks to clear out the Tesla Troopers. They always feel like a good idea, but they sometimes don't work out. War Factory is still here, but it's all Tesla Troopers for the defense, and the defense falls apart as Endy just gets eliminated here. Infamous plowing his way through every defense that our team on the left side has. War Factory gets eliminated. Endy even going to be losing his MCV and sells everything else off. This one refinery is his last possession, it seems. He's got a naval yard out there on the water. The refinery finally gets sold off. And it looks like it is going to be a hard road for the comeback. Yuri Prime doing insane amounts of damage. His Shogun battleships doing so much to tear apart Fury. Endy has been defeated. Libra, Yuri Prime, and Infamous standing strong. But Infamous, very close to actually being eliminated. If he loses that power plant, then actually all of his tanks will suddenly explode. Yuri Prime has rebuilt very nicely on land, keeping alive this original mecha bay. And the Shogun battleship eventually got sunk. Those sneaky Yari mini-subs actually losing out there. Fury has been defeated. ANF has been defeated. The comeback won't happen as Yuri Prime, Infamous, and Libra take the win. Infamous getting so much damage done in the last half of that game. Despite the fact that he had almost no structures remaining on the map, his army was about to expire, but he did the damage anyways. That will do it for this game, and I think that'll do it for this video as well. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for sending in replays, and we will check out some more subscriber replays in the future. This is Sybert, signing out.